October the 19th, I'm delighted to say, yields a 91st birthday for Kunihiro Sugiyama, one of Sumo's best ever commentators, and looking really well on it, isn't he? Mr. Sugiyama has been honing his craft since the 1930s, imitating what he heard on Sumo radio broadcasts. Such was his love back then for a fading Tamanishiki that he backed him over his local Kyushu hero Futabayama, even creating fake commentaries which had Nishiki defeating the great Futaba by pivot throw. Impossible even when he wasn't injured. But how was the young Kunihiro to know? He would not actually see sumo live until aged 19. Prior to that, all he had to go on were still shots and the sheer descriptive powers of great sportscasters. Teru Yamamoto, Shinken Wada, Seijun Shimura, much of whose greatness he imbibed. He was amply silver-tongued by his university days, but was told he could never join the broadcasting circle with a thick Kyushu accent. And this is where I like to think we bond. For although he's Japanese and I'm not, we both had to study standard pronunciation. By 1953 he was in state broadcaster NHK, and posted to Nagoya for the sumo meet of February 1954. In those days, an unofficial tournament serving, despite the freezing cold, as a warm-up for Osaka. The sportscasters he idolized, with the exception of Wada, who died too young, were now his mentors, unsparing in both their criticism and their efforts to help him. At 7 p.m. each day, the commentary box would be cleared, two shirted and tied colleagues would stage a sumo bout, and Mr. Sugiyama would have to describe it. Any moves he didn't know would be demonstrated on him by Yamamoto. I fell as I spoke, and spoke as I fell, was how he described those lessons. And all he learned, especially about rhythm, would take him to the summit of his profession by the 1980s, and earn him the moniker Sumo Sugiyama. Replay any top bout from that time and the chances are he is on the mic. Most sumo fans, no matter how new to the sport, have surely heard his voice somewhere. And that voice's whirlwind, kabuki-esque qualities are still there now, all those years on. His razor-sharp mind also undiminished. He's always had an eidetic and photographic memory, and can seemingly quote back to you anything he's said into the mic. And with real élan. He's also quite the statistician, having done everything the internet does now with pen and paper since the 1950s. I had the fortune to come across him in Nagoya this July, and I can honestly say it was the best sumo experience I've ever had. So dazzling was the chat we had, that when filming this just afterwards, I didn't even notice the height difference until 15 seconds in. July 2021. Hakuho in the ring, Sugiyama in the seats. It will never get better than that. So that's why I'm pleased to announce Sumo Sugiyama's latest birthday, and why I wish him quite a few more.